This is Psychic Penny, and I sense, yes, I sense a spirit is telling me that you're listening to the Skeptic Zone.
Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Yes, it's the Skeptic Zone podcast, episode number 858 for the 16th of March 2025. Richard Saunders coming to you from Sydney, Australia. A late heat wave. A late heat wave for this time of the year. Especially uncomfortable if you're doing things like moving house, or indeed if you're playing sports. But you don't want to know about the weather. You want to know about this week's show coming up. It's the Loons from Canada. All the Loons from Canada are back. Kate and Allie return to the topic of the Mandela Effect and explore the rabbit hole of the International Mandela Effect Conference, featuring speakers who delve into consciousness, quantum silliness, and miraculous phenomena. The conference is more paranormal pondering than scientific symposium. They even are able to manifest special guest Coleman Watts from the Think This Through channel on YouTube. It's good to have the Loons back on the Skeptic Zone. Following that, it's the final part of the epic, soon-to-be a major motion picture, Adventures of Psychic Penny. Will our fearless crew beat the giant space spider? Will they ever see their home planet again? And what will happen to Penny? Find out with the final installment of these adventures. And just a reminder, this whole Penny Psychic Adventures came about because of people who claim that they channel the Galactic Federation. Now, as we know, Psychic Penny is the only true channel of these federations, but other pretenders are out there, even as I speak on TikTok and whatever, pretending to contact the Galactic Federation. An example.
Galactic Federation just informed us through a channel that there is a huge battle going on right now in the solar system. The dark forces, Orion, is attacking the collective consciousness of Ra, which is 6th density positive, which resides on the 6th density Venus.
There's a new being here, a Galactic Federation member. I've never met her before. And she's so beautiful. She comes through. She's a Lyran or a Lyran being. So she's feline.
Hang on a second. I think this person is talking about Commander Lyra on the slightly rusty bucket. Yes, now all these people pretending to channel the Galactic Federation, they're going to be getting a stern telegram soon from Emperor Snazzleflurp. So just watch out. Well, following the wonderful adventures of Penny, we have the Australian Skeptics Newsletter, read by Adrienne Hill, a very close friend of Psychic Penny, as it turns out, and of course written by Tim Mendham. Then to round off the show, it's back to the digital archives of newspapers in the Trove segment. This week we are concentrating on the Age newspaper in Melbourne many, many decades ago, and we look for references to James Randi. And actually, I must admit, I am surprised. I'm continually surprised how many references there are to James Randi in Australian newspapers. He certainly made an impression during his many visits. Now, just yesterday, I was delighted to take part in Skepti Camp in Victoria at Aries Inlet at the invitation of Don Hyatt, and I spoke about Psychic Penny and AI and skepticism. And what a treat it was to see the people sitting there in the audience. And I even got a special wave from Karen and Michelle Bickersma. Michelle, of course, you know, is the skeptical fairy. Is that a secret anymore? I don't know. And Karen will soon be interviewed on the show by Adrienne Hill about how people particularly women, are taken advantage of online in various scams. Looking forward to that important interview. Coming up tomorrow night in Melbourne at the Skeptics Cafe, and this is the Stolberg Hotel, 197 Plenty Road, Preston, beginning at 6 p.m. Go along for a movie night and a dinner. And the movie they're screening is the UFO movie They Don't Want You to See, the multi-award-winning movie by Brian Dunning. And this will be followed by a discussion at 9:15 about the UFO UAP phenomena. Also, they're going to be checking in on the predictions by Ross Coulthard, who won the 2023 Bent Spoon Award for his published musings and ponderings and promises and predictions about UFOs, UAPs, alien contacts, and psionics. There's a word, psionics. Anyway, go along to this wonderful event. I wish I could go along too. I enjoy watching that movie. I've seen it many times. It's so interesting. And that's at the Stolberg Hotel at 6 p.m. Well, now it's time for me to run downstairs. And I think I shall make myself a pancake, as inspired by the skeptical fairy godmother angel from the internet, who some years ago was convinced to buy real maple syrup. Well, I do that. I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone. It's the Loons from Canada. Here's Kate and Allie.
Hey, Kate.
Hey, Allie.
So a YouTube video showed up in my feed that sparked my interest, and it was a Simon Dan video. Have you ever seen his videos?
A few, yeah.
It was titled, "This Mandela Effect Conference is Hilarious." And I learned that this conference is not what I thought it might be.
Are you saying you may be having a Mandela effect about the Mandela Effect Conference?
I think I might be. And as an aside, when I went to look more into this conference, I wanted to refer to your For Crying Out Loud episode about the Mandela Effect and decided to see if it would save time by asking the Copilot AI which episode it was. And so here's my prompt that I put in. What episode of the Skeptic Zone podcast did Kat McLeod talk about the Mandela Effect? And its reply was, Kat McLeod discussed the Mandela Effect on episode number 844 of the Skeptic Zone podcast, which was released on December 8th, 2024. In this episode, she explored why people sometimes misremember events and the psychological factors behind the phenomena. And what really amazed me, it even provided the link to the episode. It was amazing. So when I saw this video by Simon Dan, I immediately thought of your episode and thought we could expand upon it. But before we get into what this conference was about, Kate, can you remind the listeners what the Mandela Effect is?
Sure. The Mandela Effect is a collective misremembering of a fact, like thinking Shaggy in the Scooby-Doo cartoon has a large Adam's apple, which he doesn't, or that the Fruit of the Loom logo has a cornucopia behind it, which it doesn't.
Or my favorite, the Kit Kat bar. Does it have a dash or does it not have a dash?
Is it a dash or is it a squiggle?
It's neither. It's just the words together. I would have sworn that it had a dash or a squiggle or something.
Yeah, but see, my name is on it, so I kind of know.
Back to the conference. When I first heard about the International Mandela Effect Conference, or as they call it, IMEC or IMAC. Do they ever say IMAC? I don't remember.
I could not pay attention enough to the intros of those videos.
This conference was held on November 7th through 10th in 2024, and it was held in Tennessee. And I had pictured a full room of psychologists discussing their research papers about memory. But boy, was I wrong. And just to give you a little taste, a little forward about what the conference was about, on the actual webpage, it says, quote, over the course of 3 days, we'll delve into the intricacies of the Mandela effect, exploring its origins and effects on our reality. And then it continues with a lot of drivel. And at the end, it says, get ready to deep dive into the wild world of consciousness at this year's conference, end quote. And the videos are uploading as of February 19th, 2025. So you can check it out yourself if you really want to. And according to their channel, this is their 5th season. Here are some of their conference speakers. Christopher Anatra, and he's known as the quantum businessman. And he will share his insights on the Mandela effect and its connection to quantum mechanics and consciousness.
That's taking the whole small businessman thing to a whole nother level.
Oh, that's wonderful, Kat. And then there's Candace Craw Goldman, and she's a well-known figure in the field of quantum healing. She will be conducting a workshop on exploring consciousness and reality. And Bill and Liz, they will lead an interactive workshop focusing on the practical applications of the Mandela effect in your daily life. And that's just a taste of the many, many speakers over those 3 days.
Oh, I know. Their YouTube channel has monthly open tables. And I actually watched the talk from this year's conference from Candace Craw Goldman, the Manifesting Miracles with the Mandela Effect. She expands the Mandela effect to include sudden awareness of people you weren't aware of before, things appearing and disappearing, as well as synchronicities.
I don't even know what that means.
Oh, you could waste an hour of your time if you want. It's like, oh, I didn't know Adrienne existed before, and now Adrienne exists.
Oh.
Isn't that just called meeting somebody?
Okay.
I don't know, and it's like, oh, I misplaced my pen. Oh, I found my pen. That's things appearing and disappearing. No, that's just, you found it. Ta-da!
So the fact that my ADHD causes me to misplace things all the time, it's actually because of quantum consciousness or something?
It's the Mandela effect that is actually bringing miracles into your life.
Okay. The miracle of losing things and then finding things? Sorry.
Pretty much. It was a miracle you found it. See? Ta-da! She talks about spontaneous remissions of disease and birth defects miraculously being reversed as long as people are open-minded.
Oh, so if you're not open-minded, then it's your fault that your kid has a birth defect?
Of course it is. She does say, however, that you can't order up or demand a miracle. To quote her directly, she says, quote, not every healing session results in a miracle, end quote. But then she proceeds to talk about how she supposedly healed both of her parents. And by healed, I mean her mother no longer needed oxygen for her congestive heart failure, but she died 6 months later due to complications from a stroke. So not sure how that was healed, but whatever.
Healed for the minute.
Just for right now, you don't need that oxygen tank, but give it 6 months and you won't need anything.
Yeah, it's terrible.
She talks about beyond quantum healing, which involves programming water.
Oh, they get into that. Oh, my.
Oh, they do get into that. And they talk about past life regression. And she openly admits that, quote, no one knows how this works, end quote. And she implies that if someone claims to know how it works, then they must be lying. So in other words, just put all your critical thinking aside, have faith and be open. And then, poof, a miracle might happen.
Oh, my. What I found interesting, too, in the opening of the 2024 conference video titled, quote, IMEC Open Tables Season 5, Episode 1, Breezy February, end quote, a speaker says they want to, quote, bring science and the paranormal together because paranormal is just science undiscovered or misunderstood, end quote. It's followed by another person stating, quote, every time I keep asking, how good can it get? This prompts the participatory universe to provide us with answers that we genuinely do want to live the answer to, end quote. whatever that means. And then, of course, we get introduced to the quantum businessman, Christopher Anatra.
Oh, he's an interesting character. He's the president and CEO of a food distribution software company. On his website, he states, quote, "The end of the year 2016, I began a spiritual awakening process, which has been continuing to this day. Part of that process involved the Mandela effect and how that phenomena was changing the names of food products that my clients dealt with daily. This includes the famous HAAS avocados to always being HASS avocados, or products like Stouffer's stovetop stuffing never existing." And just a little side note from me here, Stouffer's makes frozen foods. GM and Kraft make the stovetop stuffing.
Mm-hmm.
It was never Stouffer's.
Yep.
Back to him. "My journey led me into the concepts of quantum mechanics, including the double slit experiment, quantum entanglement, and the holographic universe." Because, of course, that's a logical progression.
Yeah.
"It led to epiphanies about consciousness, bubbles of reality, and how we're dreaming and co-creating our reality together. Are we possibly fractal of consciousness, rendering ourselves into this reality by the DNA of our human carbon-based avatar into a type of virtual reality mind matrix?" End quote.
Oh my.
And yes, I lost IQ points reading that.
I don't have any remaining. I think they're gone. This conference is quite something. And you know who might be able to shed even more light on this? It's Coleman Watts. And he has that really wonderful YouTube channel called Think It Through.
Pretty sure it's called Thought That Through.
Actually,
Or was it Think a Thing Through?
Actually,
there are
it's-
3 T's.
guys,
Thought That Through?
Or was
Thought
it
that
Think
I'm
a
here
Thing Through?
and it's-
Or
Think It Through? Oh, what?
it's actually Think This Through.
Oh, Coleman.
Hi, Coleman.
Hi, I'm here. Funny story about that. In a previous alternate reality, I thought that the channel was going to be called Think It Through. And then my wife pointed out that that spells tit, which is
a really beautiful bird.
good thing I thought that through. In this reality, I did.
The Mandela effect in reality. And it really did exist at one time. So maybe the conference has something.
I manifested a different name for my channel.
It was a miracle.
It's a funny synergy that we're talking about this right now because I'm just making a video, which might be released by the time people in your timeline hear this, that is about the Mandela effect because there was an international conference. It was so international that it was in Tennessee. And funny enough, I was researching it and I found that the founder of the Mandela effect was not there. She actually is through with it. She's done. As far as she's concerned, the Mandela effect is no longer a lucrative business model for her. And of course, I'm talking about Fiona Broome. This is a woman who has been a paranormal ghost hunter for the past 40 years. But about 10 years ago or so, she was convinced that she had vivid memories of Nelson Mandela dying in prison in the 80s. Now, of course, obviously he didn't because he went on to be the president of South Africa and didn't die until 2013. But she was absolutely convinced that she was right about this. Now, I did a little research into it and almost certainly she was mixing up Mandela with another prominent South African civil rights leader, Steve Biko, who did die in prison in 1977. So, oops.
Well, and that's what the Mandela effect really is misspellings or mistaking one person for another. And same thing with pictures.
The collective misremembering of something.
Correct.
Well, what happened was that this white lady and her white friends decided that they couldn't possibly be wrong about Black history. And so it wasn't their ignorance of the topic. It was a parallel timeline. It had to be the world that was wrong, not them. So they named this the Mandela effect after their great understanding of what happened in South Africa in the 80s. And the name, unfortunately, stuck. And we're stuck with it now. And now there's a conference about the Mandela effect.
I think that was a quantum synergy.
Yes.
Or a quantum racism. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
That's astounding what you found out about her. Is she on even the Wikipedia page, Coleman? This is a little aside.
She is on the Wikipedia page. It doesn't mention all of that stuff, and it doesn't mention her latest rage quit from the topic. She actually tried to monetize the Mandela effect again just a few months ago, actually, in October of last year. And then just 2 months later, she got so much criticism, especially for her, doubling, tripling down on I know Black history better than other people, that she's quit again after, she just didn't have enough time in the day to delete all the Facebook comments that she was getting. So she's done.
You see, you can manifest a miracle.
Well, we certainly look forward to your new video, Coleman, and I'm so glad you popped in to correct us on the name of your channel. Can you remind us what it is again?
It's Think This Through. Come find me on YouTube. It's at Think This Through channel. Find out all about this crazy, wacky Mandela Effect Conference. I'm about halfway through it right now, and it is something extra.
Yeah, and we've gone through some of it here on our report, and between the two of us, I think maybe we'll have it covered. Or the three of us. Between the three of us.
You and I share one brain, so we only count as one.
We do. It's very true.
The listeners are all brilliant, which I know they are. They'll just set up a Google alert, and then boom, as soon as the podcasts are out, you get the notification, so you don't have to remember that it's Think This Through. And if you forget what that is, Coleman will just come up automatically for you. It's like magic.
It's magic. We manifested Coleman, obviously.
That's right. Just like we did today.
All right, well, if you're done manifesting me, I've got other things to do, guys.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining us, Coleman.
Until next time, this is Allie.
Kate.
Oh, and I'm Coleman.
Hallo aan alle Nederlandse luisteraars. Op dit moment bent u aan het luisteren naar de Skeptic Zone voor wetenschap en kritisch nadenken. Voor meer informatie ga naar www.skepticzone.tv.
Welcome to Part 7, the conclusion of The Adventures of Psychic Penny, a space opera written by AI. Different AI engines. This time, once again, it's the turn of DeepSeek. The characters. The narrator sets the scene and provides transitions, played by Richard Saunders. Psychic Penny, a fake psychic with a flair for the dramatic, played by Adrienne Hill. Agent Zorak, a skeptical Galactic Federation agent with a dry sense of humor, played by Kat McLeod. Commander Lyra, a no-nonsense Federation officer who's seen it all, played by Lara Benham. And Emperor Snazzleflurp, the goofy leader of the Galactic Federation, played by Maynard. As the slightly rusty bucket hurtles through space, our heroes face their greatest challenge yet, a colossal space spider, its 8 glowing eyes fixed on their ship. Will Psychic Penny's cosmic intuition save the day? Or will the crew become space spider snacks? Let's find out.
We've got a giant space spider on the hull. Zorak, activate the defense systems.
Oh, great. First hamsters, now spiders. What's next? Space cockroaches?
Fear not. My psychic powers are tingling. I sense a weakness.
A weakness? Is it peanut butter?
No, your cosmic eminence. The spider is drawn to shiny objects.
Shiny objects? How does that help us?
Oh, it's simple. We just lure it away with something sparkly, like the magic crystals.
Oh, sure. Let's just hand over the priceless galaxy-saving crystals to a giant spider. Brilliant plan, Penny.
We don't have a choice. If we don't do something, the spider will tear the ship apart.
I'll do it. I've always wanted to be a hero.
Wait! Your Eminence! You can't just waltz out there.
Why not? I've got my trusty space cape and this glow stick I found in the snack bar.
Oh, fine. But Zorak, you're going with him.
Of course I am.
Emperor Snazzleflurp and Agent Zorak step onto the hole, armed with nothing but a glow stick and a bag of magic crystals. The space spider looms above them, its mandibles clicking menacingly.
Hello, Mr. Spider. I loved you in Charlotte's Web, I cried at the end. Would you like some sparkly crystals?
This is the dumbest thing I have ever done.
The spider snatches the crystals and scuttles away, leaving the ship unharmed. But as the airlock closes, a new problem arises.
The crystals! The reason for this whole mission, and now they've gone! Gone!
Fear not, Commander. I foresaw this. The crystals are still here.
Still here? You mean you gave the spider fake crystals?
Exactly. The real crystals are safe.
Well, that is one crisis averted. Now let's get back to Centaurus before something else goes wrong. This ship is barely holding together as it is.
With the space spider defeated and the crystals safe, the crew finally sets a course for Centaurus.
We're home.
Finally. I need a nap.
And I need a snack. Who's up for space nachos? They're like regular nachos, but they're in space.
My work here is done.
Good job, Penny. You actually came through for us.
So we've decided to take you home in a week or two after we repair the slightly rusty bucket. But this is on the condition that you no longer pretend to contact the Galactic Federation.
But what about all those other psychics who contact the Galactic Federation?
You make with the mirth. There are no psychics who contact the Galactic Federation. If they did, I'd be the first to know. Or maybe the second. Maybe the third after that guy on the left over there. But I'd know. I would not remain indignant. I think. Or I would remain indignant. I don't know.
Really? Okay then. But what about Secret Agent Vespa? What's going to happen to her?
Oh, we'll trade her back to Nebulon 9. In return, they can give us some space hamsters and pizza.
But for now, Penny, tell me about my future. Will there be more nachos and pizza? And what about my career opportunities? Did I tell you about my uncle? He's a psychic too. Also, who's going to win the next Space Hockey League?
And so ends the cosmic misadventures of Psychic Penny and the crew of the slightly rusty bucket. Will Penny ever see her cosmic friends again? Time will tell. And there we are, the conclusion of the 7-part series, all written by AI with the odd tweaking of the script here and there to keep it on track, and maybe there was a little bit of ad-libbing from certain cast members. I have a funny feeling there are more adventures to come for Psychic Penny.
You've probably heard the saying, knowledge is power. While that's true, there's just too much to know. Plus, we carry access to nearly all of humanity's knowledge in our pockets. Unfortunately, there's also a lot of misinformation out there. Conspiracy theories, propaganda, pseudoscience, science denial, all of which are effective because they appeal to our biases and emotions. As Richard Feynman reminded us, no one can fool us like we can. Protecting yourself from misinformation requires better thinking. When you need reliable information, do you know where to find it and how to use it to make wise decisions? And importantly, are you aware of the thinking errors that might cause you to fall for misleading information? The bottom line is, knowledge is not enough. Thinking is power. I'm science educator and communicator Melanie Teresa King. Please visit thinkingispower.com to learn more about critical thinking, information literacy, and science literacy skills. Educators can find useful and engaging course materials and assignments for their students. And for a daily-ish dose of better thinking, follow Thinking is Power on X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube.
Hello everyone, this is Adrienne Hill from Skookum Studios in Calgary, Canada, and I'm going to read the highlights from the Australian Skeptics Newsletter. This is newsletter number 217. Don't forget, you can sign up to this newsletter at skeptics.com.au and get the full report, complete with all the links every other week, right into your inbox. But let's see what Tim Mendham has for us this week. Hi all, says Tim. It was so sad to hear of the recent deaths of Joe Nickell and, as reported last newsletter, Roy Arnott. One an international and high-profile player on the skeptical scene, another less well-known but who worked tirelessly on the local scene. Both contributed in their own way, and both are noteworthy for it. Our thanks to them and our best wishes to their families and friends. Meanwhile, we have the powers of ignorance to deal with, and all of us can play our part. Read on. Tim. Okay, Tim, Psychic Penny will do just that. Valet Joe Nickell. We were saddened to learn of the death of legendary U.S. skeptical investigator Joe Nickell at the age of 80. Joe was a pioneer and leading figure in the skeptical investigation of the paranormal, author of many books, many of which I've read and are excellent, and a challenge to, quote, fraudsters, con men, medical quacks, and the credulous in a way that will not soon be forgotten, end quote. You can hear an interview he did with Maynard on the Skeptic Zone on one of his visits to Australia here. An extensive list of Joe's reports and articles can be found at the Skeptical Inquirer. RFK Jr.'s mixed messages on measles. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the newly appointed U.S. Health Secretary, said he was deeply concerned by an outbreak of measles in Texas. With the death of one child, and perhaps surprisingly considering his past statements, urged people to get the measles jab, though earlier he had dismissed the outbreak as not unusual. He then undercut the message by saying the decision to vaccinate was a personal one and something for parents to discuss with their healthcare provider. He also touted vitamin A as a treatment for measles, though the message may have been as a preventative, which it is not. Kennedy has been a long-standing anti-vaccination campaigner, though he said during the recent election campaign that he had been misinterpreted and misunderstood. His latest comments don't help. Unblocking the psi ability. Researchers in Canada. Oh, Canada, my home and 51st state. claim to have uncovered that parts of the brain actually act as a psi inhibitor, meaning it suppresses, quote, the natural psychic, telepathic, and clairvoyant abilities people have but don't know about, end quote. It's rather hard to pin down how much to believe. There's hardly any publicity for this, and what there is, a story in the Daily Mail and a paper in a pay-to-publish journal, are not the most encouraging. Maybe that's how Psychic Penny got her powers. The psi inhibitor was not present for her. Poor predictors. Richard Saunders continues his investigation of poorly performing psychic predictions by pointing out that no one seemed to foresee Donald Trump's interesting proposal to take over Gaza, despite that idea's obvious newsworthiness. Quote, "This tallies with what skeptics would expect and predict. That is, every year there are astonishing events all over the world that no psychic had the foresight to forecast," end quote. More details of this story will be in the March issue of The Skeptic. Spanish court. Gestalt therapy lacks science. A landmark court ruling in Spain has reaffirmed that Gestalt therapy lacks scientific validity and operates in ways that resemble sectarian structures. The decision dismissed a lawsuit filed by the Spanish Association of Gestalt Therapy, which sought financial compensation and a retraction of a critical report on Gestalt therapy, but instead resulted in the association being ordered to pay court costs. We're in the process of putting the finishing touches to the March 2025 issue of The Skeptic, and yes, we're running a little bit late. And it features a look at folklore, the fun fashions and fakes, as well as an in-depth look at 2 cancer cure influencers on the news and on TV, Wellness Woo, Cold Heart's latest definitive proof of UFOs, at least this week's version, and a full report on Skepticon XL. In the meantime, the December issue of The Skeptic is out, which looks at the not-so-normal mind, a history of the Skeptic's challenge, a history of manifesting, dangerous treatments, and much more. You can read the article on manifesting your wishes in the preview of the December 2024 issue, available on our website. Items of interest. Rapper raps with the devil. Rapper Sean Diddy Combs, who is awaiting trial on charges of racketeering, sex trafficking by force, and transportation for purposes of prostitution, may have, quote, sold his soul to the devil, end quote, according to a paranormal expert. The expert says this, quote, could be a very big problem. This could also be scaring anyone around him in prison, end quote. Ex-CIA agent on life on Mars. An ex-CIA agent shares the evidence of what he discovered in a cancelled remote viewing project that proves there was life on Mars. Oh dear. Hearing from Argentina's Bigfoot. For what it's worth, this is sort of audio evidence put forward to prove the existence of Argentina's version of Bigfoot. It's a howling or noise or something. Well, that's all for the newsletter this week. And with the craziness that is happening with the threats from the US against so many countries, you may have heard or seen the term elbows up regarding Canadians. I have been asked constantly what this term means, so I thought I would go into a bit of a deep dive here to explain this now very popular slogan that Canadians have embraced. It all started with the US late-night television show Saturday Night Live, which ended with Canadian actor Mike Myers mouthing the words elbows up while lifting his elbow. And Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew stated Canada, quote, can't be a punching bag and we have to get our elbows up, end quote. Our former Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, made several moving speeches prior to stepping down that included the phrase elbows up. Quote, "We're a country that will be diplomatic when we can, but fight when we must. Elbows up," end quote. And, quote, "We're a country that celebrates the right of each and every person to be who they want to be, to pray as they pray, and love whom they love. We're a country that will always defend a woman's right to choose. And we're a country that will be diplomatic when we can, but fight when we must. Elbows up," end quote. Now, this expression originates from our favorite national sport, hockey, and from the player known by two nicknames, Mr. Hockey and Mr. Elbows. Gordie Howe. He was known for using his elbows to gain the upper hand in a fight for the puck, or as retribution against people who would be too aggressive towards him. And according to Roy McSkimming, who is the author of Gordie, a Hockey Legend, he describes Howe as, quote, "meting out punishment on the ice, and that you have to have your elbows up in the corners because you never know who's coming to get you," end quote. There's even a bronze statue of Howe standing outside Saskatoon's SaskTel Centre Arena that shows him with his left elbow held high, as if fending off an invisible opponent. Elbows Up has become a rallying cry against the U.S. tariffs and threats, with Canadian companies selling tees, hats, pins, toques, and bunny hugs, with the saying added to a maple leaf usually. Even I have purchased a tee, which I hope to wear on my trip to Australia in a few weeks. Look out for me in Melbourne and Sydney. Until next time, this is Adrienne Hill from Skookum Studios.
Hi everyone, this is Susan Gerbic from Psychics Explained. That's the YouTube channel where we discuss and analyze in great depth all those people who say that they can speak to the dead, all those readings, how they look like they're actually communicating with people. Why do people fall for this? There's a reason. It's much more complicated than you would think. Come to my channel, watch our videos. We would love to have you become part of our conversation. Just visit us on YouTube at Psychics Explained or Psychic Sexplained on YouTube.
Now it's time once again to go back to those wonderful digital archives, no matter where they are, and archives from around the world, including libraries. Imagine that. Useful information in a library. Normally we go to Trove at trove.nla.gov.au. You can go there, have a look. And this is the incomparable collection gathered by the National Library of Australia, fully searchable. But today we're going to reference the Age newspaper from many years ago in Melbourne. And today's topic is my old friend and one of the great skeptical figures of all time, James Randi. Now, I'm continually surprised how many times James Randi appeared in Australian newspapers over the years. I'm always finding something new. And I start in the year 1993. On the 8th of July, it was printed in the Green Guide. And this story is about the time the Australian Skeptics, before I was involved, gave a Bent Spoon Award to the TV network Channel 7, or the 7 Network. And of all the networks in Australia, I know this from first-hand account, Channel 7 are more likely to have paranormal, mystics, and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, the story is called 7 Earns a Bent Spoon, and this is by David Walker. The world's best-known exposer of paranormal fakery, James Randi, has accused Channel 7 of sacrificing ethics for income after the station's programming earned it the 1993 Bent Spoon Award. Awarded each year by the Australian Skeptics, the gold-plated spoon has been won in the past by a psychic who claimed to have discovered the Colossus of Rhodes, and by the alleged discoverer of Noah's Ark, Dr. Alan Roberts. Channel 7 grabbed the prize recently for its string of uncritical programs on paranormal phenomena such as telepathy, faith healing, ghosts, and UFOs. Programs cited by the skeptics included the Chance and Coincidence special, the series The Extraordinary, and Tonight Live for its parade of clairvoyants, astrologers, and mediums. And incidentally, we've covered the program The Extraordinary a couple of years back on the Skeptic Zone. Which reminds me that if you go to the Skeptic Zone homepage and click the top link that says episodes, the next page will give you a search feature. So you can type in, whatever you're interested in, and it will search almost, what is it now? 16 years or something? 17 years of the Skeptic Zone. Randi says media groups such as Channel 7 have become, quote, the major enemy, end quote, of people like him seeking to debunk the paranormal. Now, Randi, over 30 years ago, made an excellent point. These sort of programs, light entertainment, advertorial programs, even mainstream programming, would much rather have Are Psychics Real, a credulous show, incredulous, then, after all these years, the skeptics are right. That doesn't sell. What sells are UFOs real? Can this person really be psychic? And so on. Sigh, we read on. But the program director of Channel 7 in Melbourne, Ian Duncan, says that programs such as The Extraordinary are, quote, presented in a highly responsible manner, end quote, and do not take a point of view. Did he ever watch it? Quote, these programs help expose the public to all sorts of things they would not otherwise get to know about, end quote, he says. Randi is a professional magician who many years ago grew angry at seeing well-known magic tricks presented as real. He exposed the original spoon bender, Uri Geller, as a fake on US television, has performed bloody-looking psychic surgery to show its fraudulence, and once revealed that a prominent US faith healer was receiving his divine revelations through a radio earpiece. And that, of course, is the famous case of Peter Popoff. He rejects the excuse that programs such as Seven's merely provide entertainment. The shows lead some people into a magical form of thinking that could be both expensive and dangerous, he argues. Quote, if presented on a powerful medium like TV, people say, well, I saw it on the telly. It's obviously true, end quote. A spokesman for the Australian Skeptics, Adam Joseph, and he was involved with the Victorian Skeptics at the time, himself a film producer, says Seven presented the programs in the same way as news and documentary programs such as Beyond 2000. Beyond 2000 was a very popular science and technology program of the day. Randi has written on many paranormal phenomena, but cites his, quote, terrible experience, end quote, researching faith healers' subjects as a lesson for those who call paranormal belief harmless. Of 104 people supposedly healed by faith, he found none had been. Some were small children, some died before he caught up with them, and most were temporarily deceived into thinking their ills had been cured. He warns that the world recession has caused a surge in interest in paranormal phenomena and pseudoscience, including faith healing and homeopathy, as people seek something to, quote, lighten their lives, end quote. The announcement of the Bent Spoon Award was a highlight of the National Convention of the Australian Skeptics, a group whose members devote themselves to investigating, quote, pseudoscience and the paranormal, end quote. Winners of the award are entitled to keep the plaque on their mantelpiece, but they must remove it from the group's care by psychic means. And we have a wonderful picture of Randi. It's not the clearest picture, but there he is, holding the Bent Spoon Award. And The caption says, investigative skeptic James Randi displays the Australian Skeptics Bent Spoon Award. Channel 7 won this year's award for its string of uncritical programs on paranormal phenomena. And now we stay, in fact, in the year 1993, and this is on June the 26th in The Age. And the column is called On the Couch by Chris Beck. And this is by the way of an interview. And I'll spare everybody. I won't try to impersonate James Randi. Sometimes I do, but... Question. When did you stop believing in Santa Claus? Answer. I never started believing in it. I looked at the chimney and figured out he would have to be extremely thin and dirty to get down that chimney. Kids my age, 8, were actually believing in it. I would say, why do you believe in that trash? They would say, well, I saw him at the department store the other day. And I'd say, well, he was at the other department store. Well, that's his helper. How do you know? Question. Have you missed out on fantasy? Answer. No, I love science fiction, but I recognize it was fiction. Question. Some creative artists say they have experienced paranormal experiences. These personal experiences can surely enhance their art. Answer. All you can say is that he believes. I can believe that I'm Jesus Christ. Does it make me Jesus Christ? Because I really believe it. I knew Salvador Dali. He was a madman, but a delicious madman because he knew exactly what he was doing. Question. Do you believe your dreams while you are dreaming? Answer. I have been wakened in the middle of a dream. If it was an enjoyable dream, I wonder how it would turn out, so I got right back to the same dream again. As I am going, I think, what am I doing? But I know it's only a dream, so it's okay. Question. Is there life on other planets? Answer. Absolutely, inescapably yes. Intelligent life? It would depend on your definition of intelligent. I have been looking for intelligent life on Earth and I haven't found it yet. Question. Do you believe in God? Answer. Which God? Thor? Zeus? Which one? I have no religious background or belief whatsoever. I don't have a crying need for it. I don't believe in the tooth fairy either. I don't have any evidence that it exists. But I'm sure Randi would have a different opinion on the skeptical fairy godmother angel from the internet. Question. What do you have a crying need for? Answer. To bring some reasonable attitude to people who are being deceived by others and having their money and their emotional stability taken away from them by charlatans. I want people to consider my point of view. If they wish to reject it, they can crawl back into the traffic and get run over by the very next lorry. And I'm surprised Randi used the term lorry. It's another word for truck. It's a British use. Maybe it's his Canadian upbringing, I don't know. Question. Doesn't it help people to have faith in spiritual... And the next word, I'm sorry, is completely blurred out. For something like astrology? Answer. Yes, they could also have a faith that they don't need to take penicillin when they are infected, so they die. I am giving them faith in themselves and their own power to determine their own future, without having to go to somebody with a rag on their head and a horoscope on the wall and pay them for some useless advice. Some people don't have faith in themselves. That's tough. They should get that faith. They should learn to stand on their own and not think like medieval twerps. Come on, Randi, what do you really mean? Question. Do you suffer fools gladly? Answer. No, but I have to have a certain amount of patience and love for my fellow humans and understand that they may not be well equipped to judge these things. Question. How do you know that you are not the fool? Answer. I don't, but I don't know that I am a fool. Question. Who were you in a previous life? Answer. Harry Houdini. I always felt as a kid that I would have loved to have been him. I did take up the Escape Act. And incidentally, Harry Houdini died only a couple of years before Randi was born. And right at the end here it says, James Randi appears tonight at the Great Australian Science Show at the Exhibition Building. Phone 270-5024 for details. And the photograph, accredited here to Chris Beck, is of James Randi standing in front or behind of some Venetian blinds, so you get that stripy effect across his face. And finally, going back to the year 1980, during the time Randi was here to conduct the very famous water divining tests, which ended up being the documentary James Randi in Australia, which you can watch on YouTube, and it's simply one of the best skeptical documentaries ever made. We have, from the age once again, 26th of July, 1980, an advertisement. Dick Smith and Philip Adams present the Amazing Randi, outstanding magician, author, and founding member of the U.S. Committee for the Scientific Investigations of the Claims of the Paranormal. Lecture on the paranormal, including demonstrations, and there's a question mark after it, of ESP, precognition, watch starting, spoon bending, bring your own spoons along, and lots more. If you are interested in astrology, the occult, psychic healing, water divining, telepathy, UFOs, or even levitation, come along and hear about the $30,000 offer. The Conference Centre, Exhibition Building, 8:15 p.m, Thursday, 31 July 1980. Tickets $5 each, available at Maya, JCW, and all Bass outlets. All proceeds go to cover costs, with any profits to the PsyCop. Well, there we are. Some more mentions of James the Amazing Randi. And he's been gone a few years now, but his memory is still alive in my mind. I spent a lot of time with Randi, and one of the things that I've always remembered about James Randi was his infectious sense of humor. He found delight and humor in many things, and we used to make each other laugh quite a lot. But you can laugh quite a lot when you discover things in digital archives, especially at Trove, at trove.nla.gov.au or other archives, because when you go there, you never know what you might find. Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast, and thank you to those people who support the Skeptic Zone via PayPal or Patreon, or sometimes other forms of support, which I deeply appreciate. And you can do that at skepticzone.tv. If you like the show, if you think we should have some more Psychic Penny maybe, then please feel free to contribute. Even if you contribute $5 a month, which is scarcely anything, or $10 or $20, it all helps to keep the Skeptic Zone going. And speaking of going, I'll be going in the middle of the year on the Braving the Bermuda Triangle Skeptoid Adventure, which is a cruise leaving Fort Lauderdale, Florida on the 7th of July. And I've been in touch with Brian Dunning and the team, and they tell me there are still a few cabins left, fewer than 5 at the moment. And this is to celebrate Skeptoid's 1000th episode, but it really is a skeptical convention on the sea. We've got such a lineup of prominent international skeptics, including Ross Blotcher, Susan Gerbic, Benjamin Radford, for heaven's sake, Celestia Ward from Squaring the Strange, and many, many others, including myself. And I think it's probably half the crew of the Rusty Bucket, the slightly Rusty Bucket, is going to be on the cruise. For more information and to grab those few remaining cabins, just head to skeptoid.com or click the link on the Skeptic Zone homepage. Next week on the show, I'm going to be reading out a piece I wrote 23 years ago for a magazine under the banner of the Naked Skeptic. But until then, for now, this is Richard Saunders signing off from Sydney, Australia.
You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Please visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for episodes and show notes with links going back to 2008. You can follow the Skeptic Zone on Facebook, X, TikTok and YouTube by clicking the links at our homepage, together with links to support the show financially via Patreon or PayPal. The Skeptic Zone is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed by our guests are not necessarily those of the Skeptic Zone podcast or any other skeptical organisation.
This is newsletter number 217. Jewel, lie down. This is newsletter. No, I didn't say come here. You want a pet? Come here. Are you just going to wag your tail? You don't want a pet? You going to say hi to the listeners? Woof. No? Just going to look at me and wag your tail? Oh, you go wide? You say hello? Does that mean hello, everybody in Australia? Until next time, this is Kate, Allie, and...
Oh, it's Coleman. Hi. I was waiting for the third person to say something.
See, you belong here with us.
Yeah, that was perfect. Couldn't have been better. Until next time, this is
Kate.
Until next time. Oh, I was going to call myself Kate. Oh, God. Until
every time.
Isn't it, Coleman, a little bit of our insanity.
Are you sure you're sharing a brain?
No, it's less than a brain.
Right now.
Just hand it back for a second.
Yeah. Are we going to do a dice game?
Do you have time for a dice game, Coleman?
What's a dice game?
So at the end of the show, we pretend we're psychic and we try to predict what's going to be on the dice. And I have a very interesting dice ready to go here. It's a cuboctahedron.
She just likes saying cuboctahedron.
Bebop or rebop tahedron.
It takes about 3 to 4 minutes to do because there's 4 rolls.
Okay.
It takes us longer. Kat and I usually do it for 2 hours because we start talking. But we won't do that to you, Coleman. Trust me.
We won't torture you to that extent.
So just so you know, there's 14 sides, and I have sides 1 through 6 are the squares, and it's more likely you're going to get a square. And then 7 through 14 are on triangles on this one. I've got 2 different cuboctahedrons, and we used a different one last time, Kat. What's our prediction?
For the first roll?
Ace of spades. Sorry, I wasn't listening to the choices. Is that one of the choices?
1 through 14. I'm going to pick 8 for no apparent reason.
So 8 would be on a triangle. And I'm going to pick, my favorite, which is 11. What are you going to pick, Coleman?
7.
7. All right. So we're going to roll. It is a 9. So apparently none of us are psychic right now. Let's try it one more time. So what are you going to choose, Kat?
13.
13. Coleman?
I'm sticking with 7. It's due. It's due.
It's due. We're going with the gambler's fallacy, right?
Right.
I'm going to change to 6. It is Coleman.
I knew it.
It is a 7. Ooh, you knew it. You just had the energy. You manifested it. All right. Let's see what's going to be next, Coleman. Are you going to stick with the 7, or because it's been played, are you going to try something different?
No, the chances are much lower of it being a 7 now. I feel like it's only 1 in 14 now. So let's go with 10.
10. Sounds good. Kat?
I'll go with 7.
7. Ooh.
I'll take that risk.
Copycat. Get your own number.
And I'm going to go with the Susan Gerbic number, which is 5. It is a 2.
Wah, wah.
Yeah. And the supplemental, or the 4th roll, as we like to call it. What do you think? The last one? Last chance to be psychic.
I'm taking 7 before anybody else can.
I'll double down and go 14.
Ooh. And I'm going to be number 1.
You're number 1.
Yeah, why not?
1.
Good spread.
It is a 3. So it appears that only Coleman is partially psychic.
Yes. The winning numbers this week were 9, 7, 2, and 3. Coleman's psychic? I am not.
What do we win?
You win bragging rights. and a
You
walk
do.
with your wife.
Enjoy your walk.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining us.
See you next time.
Yeah,
You bet.
bye-bye.